Hi, I'm Nick Shell, and if you're watching this video, there's a good chance you have seen me perform my song, This Is 40. So this video, I will explain my inspiration in writing the song, This Is 40, which I have to admit, yeah, I saw the movie This Is 40 years ago, back when I was pushing 30, and that stuck with me. And I still like watching that movie, but what I wanted to do was to write a song of my mindset leading up to turning 40. I'm not 40 yet. I'm 39 and a half, ... I turned 40 in April. So that's, about 4 or 5 months from now. But I think it's important to capture what's going through my head as I'm leading into that, so that on my 40th birthday, I know exactly how I feel about the situation. So here are the words to it. I'm counting calories and lifting weights. My main hobby is to finally get in shape. So I think that's important because obviously by this age, for me, it started kicking in at age 35, and that is your metabolism changes. And of course, for me, by 35, my second child was born, and typically, even when your wife just has a baby, you start eating like your wife does while she's pregnant. So then I gained this weight at 35, and it's like the past several years, I haven't really gotten rid of it until this year during COVID, of all things. I joined the gym and I've been going 6 days a week, and I changed my diet. And for me, I knew that this is almost like, in a sense, last call to go ahead and get in shape and be healthy and to be fit. If I don't do it now, when am I ever going to do that? So I've made that a high priority for myself this year, despite it being COVID. I bought a Jeep with a manual transmission just to give myself a challenge and to live a little. The reason I put that in the song is there's this stereotype or this cliche about when a man turns 40, he buys a convertible, he buys a sports car. Well, for me, that wasn't really my thing. My dad rebuilds cars. He actually just rebuilt a 1980 MG convertible, put a V8 in it, which doesn't belong in one. But for me, it was about getting a Jeep. So, I got a Jeep about a year and a half ago. Well, actually, you can take the top off a Jeep, and I do. So there you go, there's the convertible. But it's about having the four-wheel drive, and it's about having the manual transmission. How unnecessary and impractical is that? But for me, it was part of my therapy as far as coming to terms with what happens as you're approaching 40 or turning 40. And I'll get to that in just a minute, but the line before the chorus starts says, I really can't say that I'm worried. This is 40. Then leading into the chorus, youth is wasted on the young, which that's borrowed from a playwright that said that. I saw that written on a bench when I was visiting, when I went on vacation earlier this year. I thought, I want to borrow that. So youth is wasted on the young. I mean, in other words, you can't appreciate your own youth. You don't have enough life experience to appreciate what a gift you have with your youth. It's not until you get older, closer to my age, you're like, man, had only I known all this, being young could have been even better and more fun, kind of thing. I see the irony. It isn't lost on me. Here comes the second half. I've gone and done the math. This is where I'm at. This is 40. And that's just me, again, coming to terms with, in theory, my life. If I live the life expectancy, then I'm about halfway through. So I've gone and done the math. This is where I'm at. This is 40. Moving on to the second verse. My wife thinks I'm crazy, but my kids think I'm cool. I think it's one of those things too. It's like being married 12 years now. It's like when you're married that long, you know each other so well, you know what to expect. So it's funny because I feel that when people meet my wife, the first question they ask is, so you're used to this guy by now, right? Because, being eccentric or whatever. So it's interesting that that's what people always say. So I'm like, yeah, my wife thinks you're good. She knows what she's got. This is who I am. My wife thinks I'm crazy, but my kids think I'm cool. It's funny because now that they're getting older, I think they can appreciate the things I do for them more now than they could before. And I largely am responsible for entertainment and teaching them how to play Monopoly, like right now this week with my son. So I'm becoming cool all of a sudden. Now that I'm this old, what have I got to lose? I used to care about things I couldn't control, but now with this new body, I don't have a fickle bone. And what I mean by that is, with this new body, with this new mind, with the life I've lived so far, you learn to start caring about what actually matters and not caring about what doesn't. And most things don't matter, especially your opinions, as far as what people think about you and what they might say about you, your ability to be offended. You realize that's a choice. You don't have to be offended or disrespected. Just don't give them that power over your emotions. Largely your emotions get in the way unless you learn to control them. And those are things that start working themselves out by this age. Moving on to the bridge, which I do twice at the end of the song. I miss the 80s. I miss the 90s. But this ain't too bad for a midlife crisis. So I want to point out too with this, that this song has to do a lot with getting to a place in life where, compared to when I was 20, it was about, okay, well, who am I going to marry? What am I going to do for a living? And then 10 years later, it was, okay, well, now I'm married and I'm about to have my first kid. And is this really what I'm going to be doing for a living, what I'm doing now? Oh, here I am 10 years after that, been married for over a decade, have 2 kids, very well established in my career, and things are going very well for that. And it's almost like that carrot dangling in front of you that serves as your motivation. It's like, well, what do I do now? What's the new problem I need to solve, or the new goal that I need to work towards? That's ultimately my version of the midlife crisis. It doesn't mean things are actually bad. It means maybe that they're actually really good, and you're able to finally really appreciate and recognize in that time and space and think, and now what? Now, what do I do with this? And ultimately, you, like I said earlier in the song, you come to terms with where you're at and to realize, in theory, my life is half over at best. Hopefully I've still got 40 more years. And then as you get older, so does everybody else. People that are older than you have to start internalizing, I'm not always going to have them. And then I'll say this too. No matter what you believe about what happens after you die, whether you're a religious person or not, for me personally, I've never been more aware of the fact that no one can know for sure while you're still alive. And that's a bit of the paradox too. You have to live the rest of your life in faith that whatever you believe happens to your consciousness after you die, or whatever you don't believe, that you're willing to bet your life on it literally. And so those are things that I'm sorting out, and especially have been sorting out over the last couple of years especially. But I'm glad I didn't wait until I turned 40 to write this song. I'm glad I went ahead and wrote it and performed it now, and kind of can appreciate that now. And it's funny because in a couple of days, one of my friends from growing up is turning 40, and so my wife and I are going to her birthday party, her 40th birthday party, and the attires are dressed, in the 80s, because that's when we were kids. We were born in 81. And I'm sure that just knowing that was coming up was part of the reason I wanted to write this song, and knowing that I don't have to wait till I'm 40. My class of 1999, we're all turning 40 now, so now's the time to really start fathoming what's going on. If you didn't get a chance to see the song yet, just check out that link. There's a link right there where you can hear me do my song. You can put your comments right here.